Hey guys, happy Saturday to everyone. I am back on with Miss Lucy here, who's still laying in her diaper, and I'm going to continue my silicone series with the topic today is how to prepare for your first silicone baby doll to arrive. I'm going to share with you some helpful things to have on hand, things you may want to purchase while you're waiting for your silicone doll to arrive, things that you should have on hand, just having silicone dolls in your collection. So the first thing I'm going to recommend is there are a couple different options. Some sort of powdering. Silicone dolls require a little bit different care. They're a different medium altogether, and comparable to vinyl reborn, vinyl reborns need no care versus silicone dolls sometimes need to be powdered. And I will tell you straight up that some are definitely more sticky and tacky feeling silicone versus others. And it's going to depend on the artist and the type of silicone that they used or their blend, their mix. So it's really going to depend on the doll. They vary. So I will tell you that Claire Taylor silicone dolls, especially the newer, softer silicones, don't really require a whole lot of powdering. Some people just like to powder their dolls because it's soothing. It's, I don't know, the act of actually powdering, I think, is something that just some collectors enjoy more than others. I generally only do it when it's necessary. This particular baby, very rarely will I ever powder her. She really just doesn't need powder. She's not sticky. She's not tacky. She doesn't collect lint or dust. It's very rare that I'll find, the biggest thing with her is that I have to clean her eyes, that she occasionally picks up like a little piece of hair or lint or something in there. But the rest of her doesn't generally need to be powdered because her silicone and the finishing of it with the matting, it just isn't necessary. And Claire will even say in her instructions the doll should not need to be powdered regularly. One of the other suggestions that Claire has sent home with like instructions is if the doll happens to attract lint or dust, you can take a dryer sheet, which is used for your laundry, and you can lightly wipe the dryer sheet on the doll. I wouldn't do that with every silicone doll. I would say it's safe to do with Claire's silicone dolls because it's her recommendation. She knows what's safe to use with them. But that's just an interesting tip because it is an anti-static sheet. So it does tend to detract hairs, dust, and things. I did this once with a previous doll of Claire's, an older doll, but I've never had to do it with her newer dolls. They just don't attract dust and lint and stuff. So for powdering, there are a couple different options, and there's a lot of school of thought on the powdering and what kind of powder to use for your silicone doll. Most collectors will use like Johnson's baby powder. It says pure cornstarch, but this says with aloe and vitamin E. My concern with using baby powders that are scented that have with anything else other than pure cornstarch is that I don't know what that does to the matting or the silicone because there is additives in here. Even though it says pure cornstarch, it's not pure. They've added something to it, so it's kind of contradicting there. So I have had this for years. I'm talking years. Probably when I first got my very first silicone doll, I've had this particular bottle of powder. Don't ever use it. I actually will recommend something else. You can use pure cornstarch, which is literally, this is a little container of pure cornstarch that I have literally purchased from the grocery store that you use for cooking. There's nothing to it other than cornstarch. This is a very, very, very fine powder. I think this is very safe to use on silicone dolls. It does not have any scent to it. That's probably why some collectors don't like to use it. But I have been known to use this in the past. So I have this as well. And then I'm also going to suggest my newest, latest favorite silicone powder is by Wee Baby's Nursery. This is really great. It's silicone finishing powder. It's very, very fine. But it's made, I believe when I read about what she uses to make this with, is that she uses like fine, tiny silicone granules with this somehow. I don't know how it's made. I don't know exactly what it's in there. You can research it on her website. WeeBabyDolls.com, I believe, is the website. WeeBabiesNursery.com, something like that. You can see the little elephant says Wee Baby's Nursery. That is who actually did this. This is the starter kit. This is the first one that I purchased. And it came with this little tiny, I still haven't used all of it because I don't have to powder her. It came with a little, I don't know, I guess it looks like, it reminds me of like a makeup pad, but I don't know. I guess that's probably what it is. And with instructions. Then I decided to purchase a larger one just to keep on hand because it is really, really lovely stuff. With dolls that have matting issues, this actually works the best to kind of stay on the best, I've found. But I haven't used it in quite a long time, but so I have like a ton of it. It's like full. But that's recommended. I like that a lot. Then I'm going to tell you, invest in a powder brush. This is a kabuki brush. I will tell you to invest in a nicer one rather than a cheap one because it's nice and soft. It picks up the powder and distributes it very easily, and it's not rough against the silicone or the matting of the doll, so a very light, soft brush is recommended. Also, it doesn't lose bristles. I've had this for several years. It is white, not because of the powder, it is the color of the actual bristles. They're supposed to be that way. But I have not had any issues using this particular brush. I got it at TJ Maxx. I think I spent maybe $10 on it or something, but this is the nicest one I've had. And I use these for my face as well for makeup, but this one's still the nicest one I've had, and I've had it for years. So investing in a brush, because I'm not a fan of using the pad that Wee Baby Nursery sends with her powder starter kit. I find that it's anything that you're having to dab and rub versus lightly brushing with light bristles. It just doesn't coat as evenly, and it lays it on a little thick. So this way you can kind of lightly, gently, and it doesn't over powder the doll. So investing in that, and then a clean, a lot of them will come with a little zipper pouch. This one came with a zipper pouch, but this keeps the brush nice and clean. It doesn't get lint or dust on it, so it's very handy. Another thing I'm going to recommend is purchasing yourself some Silpoxy. Now, I've talked about making silicone repairs and what I use. This is what it looks like, guys. It is Silpoxy, and it's made by Smooth On, which is majority of the artists that are making and creating silicone dolls are buying Smooth On products. That's what Claire Taylor uses and recommends for their artists to use. This is, I've been told, the best on the market. I would agree with that. People will talk about aquarium, silicone glue, things like that to use for repairs. Like, generally we don't want to ever have to think about making a repair to a doll, especially when we're just getting a doll, but I'm telling you, I've had this container for several years. You can tell I've barely used it. And I had a doll that when I first purchased this had to use a lot of it. It was quite regularly. I was having to repair my Alley by Selena Saxton. That doll was ripping and tearing left and right, and that's how long I've had this container, this tube. A little goes a long way, to say the least. Now, I haven't had to use this in quite some time. Occasionally, I will open it up, make sure it hasn't like had a hole, or it's sometimes it can harden if it's not closed all the way. But that's why I keep it in a plastic bag, so that way, should I need to make a repair, I've got it on hand. Now, I'm going to tell you straight up, this is not cheap stuff, and I'm pretty sure the last time I looked, the price has gone up quite a bit since I purchased this. So it's pricey, but it's worth investing in, because if you have a small repair, I'm going to tell you, artists are less likely these days to want to repair older silicone dolls, even if they made them, especially because they know that many collectors have owned the doll, so if it's not the original mommy, most won't even touch the doll because too much may have happened. It's like opening up a can of worms, and usually they just don't have the time. So having this on hand, you can make small repairs yourself. I have gotten quite comfortable when I had Allie Saxton. I got very comfortable with making my own silicone repairs, and that was at her suggestion. She did not want to repair her doll. She told me that you can buy some Silpoxy and make the repairs yourself. So that is exactly what I did, and I got quite comfortable using this product. It, like I said, a little goes a long way. You can make the repairs if you do it properly. takes about 30 minutes to to actually dry, and then I think it's overnight, like 12 hours is when it truly sets. And then it's literally, if you do it right and you clean up the area, it dries clear, and you won't be able to see the repair if it's done properly. You'll never know it's there if it's done right and you wipe up the excess. But this is a really great product. So that's what I'll recommend, having that on hand. You may never have to use it. Like I said, I haven't had to use it in a long, long time, but I like knowing that I have it just in case I need to use it. Now, another suggestion is going to be, most collectors have baby hand mitts. Not all of us have them, but I have tons of pairs of these, just so for over the years for, dressing and things like that. But with a silicone doll, dressing your baby is going to be a lot different than dressing a final reborn. Final reborns are smooth. They slide right through the armholes and leg holes without any problems. I put these little mitts over my doll's hands, especially with open hands like this. This, I'm telling you, is easy to catch on the clothing, and it's very easy to bend back a finger accidentally. Easiest way is to put hand mitts on. Some collectors will use like a little plastic clear baggie to slide over their hands. I've even seen artists recommend wrapping your doll's hands in saran wrap, but I find that that's very wasteful, so I always just use baby hand mitts. They work great. They slide right through. Even tight armhole outfits that don't stretch very well, they slide right through with these on. So having a pair of hand mitts is going to be, I'm going to highly recommend doing that every time you dress your doll. Yeah, it's important that you know that anything that causes friction on the doll's skin in silicone can create paint issues. It can rub the matting off. It can pull the hair out. Those are things you just want to take into consideration. There are a lot of collectors out there that like to also use hair products for their dolls' mohair. I've never had to use any type of conditioner on any of my silicone dolls. I have not had to wash the hair. I have not had to condition the hair. All I do is comb the hair, and I very rarely have to comb the hair. I just generally don't mess a whole lot with the hair, even though Claire's babies, their hair is rooted very, very deep. I've never had a hair loss issue with a Claire baby, but other silicone dolls by other artists, I have definitely had dolls that literally, I lay them on like in a crib, I pick them up a week later and they've lost hair. So be very, very careful when combing the doll's hair. This is like a set I've had for forever and a day. I very rarely use it. Most of the time I use just a little brush just to kind of smooth things off if I've had a hat on her head or something like that. But having like baby hair brush and comb set, also probably if you have a reborn you already have, but if not, I would invest in it. And the last thing I'm going to suggest is lubricant, personal lubricant. It's very common now that Claire is sending home all of her new dolls with personal lubricant so that you can put it a little on the nipple, whether it's a doll or a bottle nipple or a pacifier nipple, so that it slides in the mouth without causing friction on the paint. And it's safe because it's water-based. It won't harm or do any damage to the silicone, but make sure you're getting a water-based personal lubricant if you're going to do that. I actually don't have any because I don't put any pacifiers in her mouth. I don't feed her, but I will probably purchase some at some point just to have some on hand, just in case. But yeah, so those are some things that you should have prepping for your new silicone baby to come home. And then you'll be set to actually get the doll home and enjoy it. So I'm going to be back on shortly, and I'm going to talk about what to do when your baby arrives. So Miss Lucy and I will see you very shortly, guys. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.